When I think about good university teaching, I think about three elements. The first element is about preparation. One of the most successful comedians the UK's ever seen was a guy called Tommy Cooper. Tommy Cooper's act was that he was a dreadful magician on stage, but in reality, Tommy practiced for hours and hours and hours and was on top of his craft. Is this your card? No? But the thing about Tommy was all of that practice meant that when he went to do it, it worked perfectly. So my first thing about what really good teaching looks like, you've got to do the preparation. Lectures should be research informed and also practice informed, so that it underpins what happens in the classroom. That's the first stage. The second stage to me is that when you're in the classroom, it has to be engaging. The students have to feel like you're in the room with them and that you are enjoying it as much as they are. Those are the two first critical elements. And the final element, and sometimes this is missing, but it's always got to be there, there's always got to be a gap. There has to be a gap for the students to step into. What do I mean by a gap? If I said to you, you're in a driverless car, and the driverless car might run over a person on the street or crash into a tree and kill you, what should it do? That's a gap. The students can discuss that for hours and hours and hours. It can't be that it's just you transmitting knowledge to them. There's always got to be a gap for the students to step into and come up with their own answers.
So I'm interested in the ways in which good university teaching is both similar and different across the sector. Up to a point, I think it's desirable for good teaching to be similar. We need a degree of parity within universities and across universities. And again, up to a point, I think good teaching is going to be similar because good teachers are likely to have some of the same qualities, like their knowledge of the subject, their enthusiasm for the subject, their ability to communicate that enthusiasm and knowledge to others clearly, and so on. Good teachers will also do certain things like provide good and useful feedback to students and help them with their progress and so on. So up to a point, yes, it will be similar. What interests me more perhaps though is actually the ways in which good teaching is going to vary, not just from one teacher to another, though obviously that's natural, but in fact good teaching will vary within the same teacher, perhaps from one course to another or from one student cohort to another. We need to be able to adapt. But particularly interesting to me is the phenomenon of the group dynamic, the mysterious phenomenon. I think many of us have had the experience of teaching the same course or class to two different groups of students who are actually from the same cohort and it going very differently. So that brings me on to a top quality of a good university teacher, and that is flexibility and an ability to think on her or his feet. So a good university teacher will be ready and able to teach the same class at 9 in the morning and then maybe to teach it differently at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Good university teaching is all about not only teaching your students the subject knowledge that they need, but also the employability skills and the higher order processing skills. So it's about preparing them for when they get out into the real world so that they can actually make some advances to the economy and to the industries that they go into. We always prepare them with subject knowledge, but nowadays they also need to be able to be innovative and they need to be creative, and to do that they need more than just that subject knowledge. So whenever I'm teaching, I'm trying to get them to think for themselves, I'm trying to get them to analyse things, to be problem solvers and to come up with their own solutions. It's part of the challenge is trying to work out how you get your students to challenge what you're saying so they don't just think that what you say is right. Some of the best answers you get are the ones that you haven't even thought of yourself. So for me, good teaching is when you get students coming back to you, challenging what you're saying, challenging your perceptions, and then you can have the discussion around it. It's about getting them to use their own thought processes and justify what they're thinking about.
Well, I think good teaching should really prioritise this sense of partnership between the student and the lecturer. I think that in terms of, as an educator, good university teaching should really be about developing the whole person, educating the individual, not only be educating them in terms of the subject content, but helping develop their skill set, the socio-cultural skill set, and the moral skill set as well. So it's not just about informing them, about the subject, which is of course really important, but it's about making sure they have the skills to take that beyond the ivory towers of academia into the wider world as well.